A billionaire CEO's little girl wanders through the world's largest supermall searching for something money can't buy: a new wife for her lonely father. What she discovers among strangers will leave you speechless, and what happens next is truly unbelievable. Alexander Pierce was a man who had everything, at least that's what the world thought. His name was etched into skyscrapers. His company's logo glowed across continents, and his wealth placed him among the most powerful men alive. Yet behind the polished glass walls of his penthouse, Alexander lived in silence. His wife had passed away years earlier, leaving him with his daughter, Lila, the only light in his otherwise shadowed existence. Lila was 8 years old, with wide, searching eyes that carried both innocence and sorrow. She adored her father, but she could see the emptiness in him. Every morning, she would sit at the kitchen table, crayons scattered around her, drawing families, mothers, fathers, children holding hands. But in every picture, one figure was missing: her mother. And beside her father, there was always a blank space. Alexander's daily routine was mechanical. Wake up, dress in tailored suits, attend endless meetings, sign contracts worth billions. He was surrounded by assistants, advisors, and screens filled with numbers, yet he was profoundly alone. He buried his grief in work, convincing himself that success was enough. But Lila knew better. She saw the sadness in his eyes when he thought no one was watching. She felt the coldness of a home that had lost its warmth. One Saturday, Alexander decided to take Lila to the Grand Horizon Supermall, the crown jewel of his empire. It was a sprawling monument to consumerism: glass ceilings stretching toward the sky, fountains dancing in choreographed patterns, and corridors lined with shops from every corner of the world. To Alexander, it was just another business triumph. To Lila, it was a world of possibilities. As they walked through the bustling mall, Lila's small hand tugged at her father's. "Daddy," she whispered, "I'm going to find you a new wife today." Alexander froze, startled. He looked down at her, confused. "Lila, what do you mean?" She smiled softly, her voice trembling with both hope and determination. "You're lonely. I can see it. Mommy's gone, but maybe someone kind can make you smile again." Alexander chuckled nervously, brushing it off as childish imagination. But Lila wasn't joking. She meant every word. And in that moment, her quest began. Before we continue with this incredible journey, I spent countless hours researching and crafting this story to bring you something truly meaningful. If stories like this touch your heart, and you want to see more acts of kindness that restore faith in humanity, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. It means the world to me and helps these important stories reach others who need to hear them. Now, let's see what happens next. Have you ever witnessed an act of kindness that completely changed your perspective? Share your story in the comments below. I'd love to read it. The Grand Horizon Supermall was alive with chatter, footsteps, and the hum of escalators. Lila's small figure darted ahead of her father, her determination shining through her innocent face. She wasn't just browsing stores, she was searching. Every woman she saw, she studied carefully, as if she were interviewing candidates for the most important role in her life. Alexander, distracted by his phone, barely noticed until Lila stopped in front of a florist shop. The florist, a middle-aged woman with gentle eyes, knelt down to Lila's level. "Hello, sweetheart," she said warmly. "Looking for something special?" Lila nodded. "I'm looking for someone kind, someone who can make my daddy smile again." The florist's expression softened. She handed Lila a single white lily. "Start with this. Give it to your father. Flowers remind us that even after winter, spring always comes." Lila's eyes lit up. She ran back to Alexander, clutching the flower. "Daddy, look. She gave this to you. Isn't it beautiful?" Alexander looked at the lily, then at his daughter. For the first time in a long while, he smiled, not because of the flower, but because of Lila's joy. Later, as they passed a small cafe, Lila spotted a woman sitting alone with a child. The woman looked tired, her clothes simple, her smile faint but resilient. Lila approached her boldly. "Excuse me, are you kind?" The woman blinked, surprised. "I try to be," she said softly. Lila explained her mission. "My daddy is sad. I'm trying to find him a new wife." The woman laughed gently, not mocking but touched. "That's very sweet of you. You know, kindness isn't about finding someone, it's about sharing what we have." She offered Lila the cookie from her plate. "Here, share this with your father." Lila accepted, her heart swelling. She ran back to Alexander, who was watching from a distance, bewildered but intrigued. "Daddy, she gave us this. She said kindness is sharing." Alexander took the cookie, breaking it in half. He handed one piece back to Lila. "Then let's share it together." For the first time in years, he felt the warmth of a simple gesture, a stranger's kindness reaching into his guarded heart. As the day unfolded, Alexander began to notice something extraordinary. Everywhere Lila went, she drew kindness out of people. A retired teacher listened to her dreams of becoming an artist. A shopkeeper gave her a ribbon for her hair. A janitor showed her how he polished the floors so children could see their reflections. Each encounter was small, but together they formed a tapestry of compassion. Alexander, once skeptical, began to see the mall not as a monument to wealth, but as a living community. His daughter's innocence was unlocking something he had forgotten, the humanity hidden beneath everyday lives. And slowly he realized that Lila wasn't just searching for a wife, she was teaching him how to feel again. What would you do if you discovered someone with incredible talent for spreading kindness, even while living with sadness? Let me know your thoughts below. I read every comment. Over the next few hours in the Grand Horizon Supermall, Alexander found himself watching his daughter with new eyes. Lila wasn't just wandering aimlessly, she was weaving threads of kindness between strangers. Each person she approached seemed to soften, as if her innocence reminded them of something they had forgotten, the simple joy of caring for another human being. One moment stood out. Lila stopped at a bookstore where an elderly man was arranging shelves. She asked him, "Do you have books about families who stay together?" The man smiled, pulling down a worn children's book. "This one is about a little bird who thought he was alone, but he discovered the whole forest was his family." He handed it to her, refusing payment. "For you, little one. And for your father, too." Alexander, standing nearby, felt his chest tighten. He hadn't read a story with his daughter in years. That night, he promised himself he would. Word spread quickly among the mall staff. "The CEO's daughter is looking for kindness," whispered a cashier. "She's reminding him what really matters," said a janitor. Some smiled at the thought. Others rolled their eyes, skeptical that a billionaire could ever understand ordinary struggles. But the ripple effect was undeniable. People began treating each other with more gentleness, inspired by Lila's quest. Yet not everyone welcomed this change. A group of Alexander's business associates, who had come to the mall for a meeting, noticed his distraction. They pulled him aside. "Alexander, this is unbecoming," one said sharply. "You're the face of a global empire. Wandering around with your daughter, talking to strangers, it makes you look weak." Another added, "Your shareholders expect strength, not sentimentality." Alexander hesitated. Their words cut deep. For years, he had built walls around his emotions, convincing himself that vulnerability was dangerous. Now, those walls were being challenged not just by his daughter, but by the kindness of strangers. He looked at Lila, who was laughing with a shopkeeper, her joy radiating like sunlight. Could he risk opening his heart? Even if it meant disappointing those who demanded he remain cold and untouchable. The tension grew. When Lila overheard the conversation, her face fell. "Daddy, are you ashamed of me?" she asked quietly. Alexander froze. He wanted to say no, but the truth was complicated. He wasn't ashamed of her, he was afraid. Afraid of what kindness might cost him in a world that valued profit over compassion. That evening, Alexander sat alone in his office inside the mall, staring at the lily his daughter had given him. He thought about the florist, the single mother, the retired teacher, the bookstore owner, Each had given something small, yet meaningful, and each had reminded him of what he had lost, connection. But the voices of his associates echoed in his mind, warning him that kindness was weakness. Meanwhile, Lila curled up in a chair, clutching the bird book. Tears welled in her eyes. "Maybe I can't find you a new wife," she whispered to herself. "Maybe nobody can make you smile again." Her doubt was heartbreaking, and Alexander, hearing her words, felt a pang of guilt. He realized the obstacle wasn't the world, it was himself. His fear of vulnerability was the true barrier. The tension between Alexander's associates and his daughter's mission reached a breaking point. His advisors demanded he leave the mall immediately, return to his office, and stop indulging in childish distractions. But Alexander looked at Lila, clutching her bird book, her eyes filled with tears, and something inside him shifted. For years, he had obeyed the cold logic of business. Now, he chose love. "Gentlemen," he said firmly, "my daughter is not a distraction. She is my reminder of what matters." His voice carried authority, but this time it wasn't about profit, it was about heart. The associates exchanged uneasy glances, realizing they could not sway him. Alexander had made his choice. From that moment, Alexander leaned into Lila's quest. He began engaging with the people she met. He thanked the florist for her lily, listened to the single mother's story of resilience, and asked the retired teacher about his years in the classroom. Each conversation chipped away at his grief, replacing it with connection. And as he opened up, the mall community responded. Employees, shoppers, and strangers rallied around Lila's mission, offering small acts of kindness that collectively became something extraordinary. The turning point came when Lila introduced her father to a woman she had met earlier, the single mother from the cafe. Her name was Elena, and she had been raising her son alone after her husband abandoned them. Despite her struggles, she radiated strength and compassion. Lila tugged Alexander's hand. "Daddy, she's kind. She knows what it's like to be lonely." Alexander sat with Elena, listening to her story. For the first time in years, he shared his own pain, the loss of his wife, the emptiness of his success. Elena didn't judge. She simply listened, offering empathy instead of solutions. In that moment, Alexander realized what Lila had been searching for wasn't just a new wife. It was kindness, companionship, and the courage to heal. The mall became the stage for transformation. Alexander, once detached, now laughed with his daughter, read her the bird book aloud, and even joined her in handing out cookies to strangers. Lila's sadness began to lift, replaced by hope, and Elena, touched by their openness, became a friend, not a replacement for Lila's mother, but a new presence of warmth in their lives. Weeks later, Alexander returned to the Grand Horizon Supermall not as a CEO inspecting profits, but as a father celebrating kindness. He and Lila organized a small community event in the central atrium. They invited the florist, the teacher, the janitor, Elena, and dozens of others who had touched their journey. Together, they shared stories, food, and laughter. Alexander stood before them, humbled. "My daughter reminded me that wealth means nothing without love. You all showed us that kindness is the greatest treasure." The crowd applauded, but the most powerful moment came when Lila whispered to her father, "See, Daddy, you're smiling again." And he was. Truly, deeply smiling. The story had come full circle. Lila's quest to find a new wife had blossomed into something greater, a community bound by compassion, a father rediscovering his humanity, and a little girl proving that even the smallest acts of kindness can change the world. This story shows how one act of kindness can change everything. What's one way you could make a difference in someone's life today? Challenge yourself and share your commitment in the comments. I'd love to see how kindness spreads. Months after that unforgettable day at the Grand Horizon Supermall, Alexander Pierce's life looked very different. He was still a billionaire CEO, but his priorities had shifted. His office walls now displayed Lila's drawings, families complete, hands joined, smiles radiant. He spent evenings reading with her, mornings walking her to school, and weekends not in boardrooms, but in community spaces, connecting with people he once overlooked. Lila, once quietly sad, now radiated joy. Her mission to find her father a new wife had blossomed into something far greater. She had helped him rediscover love, not just in one person, but in humanity itself. Helena, the single mother, remained a close friend, often joining Alexander and Lila for dinners. She wasn't a replacement for Lila's mother. She was proof that kindness could build new bonds, even across different lives. The mall community continued to thrive. Inspired by Lila's quest, employees started a monthly kindness day where small acts, flowers, free cookies, shared stories were offered to strangers. What began as one child's mission had grown into a tradition that touched thousands. This story reminds us that wealth, status, and success mean little without compassion. Alexander's transformation wasn't about finding a new wife, it was about rediscovering the power of kindness, vulnerability, and connection. Lila's innocence showed that even the smallest gestures, of flower, a cookie, a listening ear, can heal wounds deeper than money ever could. Kindness is universal. It crosses boundaries of age, culture, and circumstance. It reminds us that no matter how different our lives may seem, we all share the same need for love, understanding, and community. Stories like this remind us that extraordinary kindness exists all around us. If this touched your heart, please like this video. It helps more people discover these inspiring stories. Subscribe for more tales of human kindness that will restore your faith in humanity. And most importantly, look for opportunities in your own life to be someone's unexpected blessing. What act of kindness will you perform this week? Share your commitment in the comments below. I'd love to see how kindness spreads. Thank you for watching, and remember, you have the power to change someone's entire world.